I declined to share my password with my neighbor after she complained about streaming costs. Days later, my account was locked, my payment info changed, and a show was playing titled, "You Can't Hide." I confronted her and she hissed, "Now you know what it feels like to be left out." But when I called the provider, they said the activity wasn't coming from her house, it was from mine, at 3:12 a.m., when I wasn't home and… So this all started because I said no to someone I should have never spoken to in the first place. I live in Rockford, Illinois. Not a fancy part of town, but it's quiet enough. I'm a warehouse supervisor, early shifts, home by 6. I don't go out much. My home is my peace, my cave. I like routines, beer, leftovers, and something good to watch. That's it. No drama. At least, that's how I wanted it. Then Coraline moved in. She's in the house next door. Single mom. 2 boys that fight and scream all day. First few months, we just nodded at each other. I didn't plan to be friends. I've learned not to get close to people who look like they bring chaos with them. One day she caught me walking to my mailbox and waved me down like it was urgent. "Hey," she said, squinting like she had a headache. "You got Netflix, right?" I paused. "Yeah, why?" "Well, my kid's been wanting to watch something on there, but I can't swing the payment this month. Could you maybe let us borrow your login?" She said it like it was nothing. Like she was asking for a stick of gum. I said no. I told her I'd been burned before. Which was true. My ex once gave my info to 5 of her friends, and it became a mess. I had to make a new email and everything. Coraline's smile dropped so fast it was like a switch flipped. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Wow. All right. Must be nice to be that selfish." Then she walked away. I figured that would be it. Some weird neighbor tension for a few days, and then she'd forget about it. But something started to feel off around my house. A week later, I tried to watch TV like normal. Hit the power button, clicked on HBO Max, and it asked me to log in again. I figured it was a glitch. I typed in my info. Wrong password. I tried again. Wrong. My stomach dropped. I checked my email. That's when it got worse. There were 3 emails. One said my password had been changed. Another said the payment method on file was updated. The third one confirmed a new subscription tier was added. But I didn't do any of it. Then I saw the last email. No subject. Just one sentence inside, "You can't hide." I froze. The email address looked like something out of a cheap movie. watchyoureyes87@something.com. I didn't recognize it. I called HBO Max customer service. After some security questions, the guy said, "It looks like your account was accessed from a new device early this morning." "What time?" I asked. 3:12 a.m., he said. I felt the hairs on my arms stand up. I wasn't home, I told him. I leave for work at 3. Nobody else lives here. He got quiet for a second. "Well, it came from your Wi-Fi. Same IP address. That's all I can see on my end." That's when it hit me. Someone had to be inside my house. Using my Wi-Fi. My TV. But I lock all my doors. All my windows. I checked again. Nothing broken, nothing open. Still, I felt watched. I set up 2 security cameras, cheap ones. One in the living room, one in the hallway. Then I waited. 2 nights later, my phone buzzed. Motion detected. I pulled up the footage. It was black and white, grainy, but clear enough. At 3:12 a.m., a man stepped into the living room. He wasn't wearing a mask. He had a scruffy beard, thin face, wearing one of my old hoodies. He didn't rush. He moved slow, like he knew every inch of the place. He crouched by my router and plugged in a little device, looked like a USB or something with an antenna. Then he left the room, like it was just another day. I stared at the screen for 10 minutes, replaying the footage over and over. I checked all the windows and doors again. Nothing. No sign of entry. I called the cops the next morning. They watched the footage, took notes, said without forced entry or known suspect, there wasn't much they could do. They told me to change the locks and keep the cameras on. I did both. But I needed answers. And I remembered something. My attic. I never used it. Never even looked inside. I grabbed a flashlight, pushed open the panel, and climbed up. At first it looked empty. Then I noticed a section of insulation that had been pushed aside, right near the far corner. There was a crawl space hidden behind a small wall panel, barely big enough to fit a person. I pulled the panel loose. Inside I found a ratty sleeping bag, a couple of open soup cans, a backpack, a cheap burner phone, but it was the name stitched into the backpack that hit me in the chest: Dean Gallows. My cousin. We were close as kids. Got into trouble together, like most boys. But Dean went off the rails hard. Drugs, theft, some jail time. Last time I saw him was 5 years ago. He asked for money? I said no. He broke into my car 2 days later. I hadn't thought about him since. And now here he was, living in my attic. Watching me. Feeding off my Wi-Fi. Using my accounts. Leaving creepy messages like it was a game. But it wasn't a game to me. He knew my schedule. My routine. He probably watched me leave for work every morning, then came down and did whatever he wanted. He might have been doing it for weeks. I didn't tell the cops again. I wanted proof first. I wanted to make sure he couldn't deny it. So I set a trap. After I found the crawl space and Dean's stuff, something in me snapped. This wasn't just some guy breaking into my place. This was family. Blood. Someone I used to trust. Someone who used to sleep on the floor in my room when we were kids because his mom would go off on him, and he'd show up crying. And now he was living above my head like a rat. Watching me. Playing games with me. I wasn't going to wait around for him to screw with me again. I wanted him out, and I wanted to see the look on his face when I caught him red-handed. So I made a plan. I acted like everything was normal. I didn't touch anything in the attic. I didn't even change the Wi-Fi password yet. I wanted to make sure he'd feel safe enough to come back down again. I also bought another camera, this time, one I could hide inside a vent cover in the hallway. I angled it right at the attic entrance. Then I left for work at my usual time, 3 a.m. But I didn't actually go. Instead, I parked my truck around the corner, killed the lights, and waited. At exactly 3:11 a.m., I got the notification. Motion detected in hallway. My hands shook as I pulled up the feed. There he was. Dean. Barefoot, wearing sweatpants and that same hoodie. His face was hollowed out, pale, twitchy. He looked skinnier than I remembered, like he hadn't had a real meal in weeks. But he moved like this wasn't new to him. Like he'd done it dozens of times. He didn't just sneak down and mess with the router. This time, he walked into my bedroom. My bedroom. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then he came out, holding something in his hand. I squinted at the screen, trying to make it out. My watch. The one my dad gave me before he passed. That was it. I wasn't going to wait anymore. I jumped out of the truck, slammed the door, and ran toward the house. I didn't care if he heard me. I wanted him to. I busted through the front door and sprinted down the hall. He was still in the hallway, halfway up the attic ladder when he turned and saw me. His eyes went wide. Wait! I tackled him hard. He hit the floor with a thud, the watch flying out of his hand. He fought back, swinging wild, but he was weak. I pinned him down and shouted, "What the hell are you doing in my house?" He coughed, still trying to twist away. "I didn't have anywhere else to go, man. You've been living in my ceiling? Watching me? Messing with my accounts?" He went quiet for a second. Then he whispered, "You didn't help me." No one did. I needed something. I grabbed his shirt and yanked him up. So you broke into my life? Sent creepy messages? Stole from me? His face changed. Like something broke in him. He said, "Now you know what it feels like to be left out." And that's when I understood. He thought this was revenge. For the time I didn't give him money. For not answering his calls. For not visiting him in jail. This wasn't just survival to him, this was payback. I tied his hands with a phone charger cable and locked him in the basement. He screamed, begged, cursed me out. I didn't care. I called the cops. They showed up 20 minutes later. I had the footage, the crawl space, the stolen stuff, everything. Dean got arrested on the spot. But the weird part? When they searched his pockets, they found a second phone. Unlocked. No password. And on that phone were videos. Dozens of videos. Of me. Sleeping. Watching TV. Brushing my teeth. Changing clothes. Recorded through vents. From the attic. From the hallway. Some even from inside my bathroom. The cop looked at me and said, "This guy didn't just squat here. He was studying you." After they took Dean away, I thought it was over. I really did. The cops said the videos would be used as evidence, and they'd reach out if they needed anything else. They told me to change my locks, secure my attic, maybe get an alarm system. I did all of that the next day. Every lock changed, every vent checked, cameras upgraded. I even stayed in a motel for a few nights because I couldn't stomach sleeping there. But that feeling didn't go away. That heavy feeling that something was still wrong. 3 nights after Dean's arrest, I came home from work and found my front door slightly open. Just a crack. Not wide, not busted, just cracked open, like someone wanted me to notice it. I froze on the porch. I know I locked that door. I double-checked it before leaving. I pulled out my phone and checked my cameras. Nothing. The door camera had frozen at 3:16 a.m. The hallway camera was offline. The vent cam in the attic? Gone. Just a blank screen. I didn't go inside. I backed away, got in my truck, and called the cops again. They swept the house. No signs of forced entry. No new footprints in the attic. But one thing was different. Pinned to my fridge with a steak knife was a photo. A printed screenshot, from one of Dean's hidden videos. It was a picture of me asleep in bed, dated 3 weeks before I caught him. But scribbled across the photo in red marker were 5 words. "You only caught one of us." I felt the blood drain out of my face. I asked the cops if Dean had a partner. They said as far as they knew, he acted alone. No one else had been seen on the footage. No evidence of another person. But I knew what I saw. I knew that writing wasn't Dean's. I grew up with him. He was sloppy. The handwriting on that photo was clean. Sharp. Careful. Someone else had been watching me. And they were still out there. The next night, I checked into a motel again. I couldn't stay in that house. I barely slept. Around 2:30 a.m. My phone buzzed. It was a motion alert, from the new backup cam I had installed and hidden in the backyard behind my shed. I opened the feed. A figure, wearing a hoodie and gloves, walking up my driveway. Not Dean, this guy was taller, thinner. He walked straight to my house and stopped. Then he looked directly at the camera. And smiled. Just stood there, grinning like it was a joke. Then he held something up, another photo. Even though it was night and grainy, I could tell it was another screenshot. Another image from inside my house. Then he dropped it on the ground, turned around, and walked off into the dark like he had all the time in the world. When I went back to the house with the cops the next morning, the photo was still there. This one showed me again, but not sleeping. This one showed me watching TV. And written across the top was a new message. "You only changed the locks. Not the rules." That photo. That message flipped something in my brain. I wasn't scared anymore. I was angry. Someone was still playing with me. Watching me. Mocking me. They thought I'd crawl away scared, let them control my life. They didn't realize who I used to be before I tried to settle down. Before my warehouse job, before the quiet life, I wasn't always clean. I grew up with Dean, remember? I knew people who did things off the grid. I used to help them set up hidden cameras, tweak wireless signals, all kinds of shady stuff. I wasn't a criminal, but I understood how criminals thought. And I still knew a guy named Craig who owed me a favor. Craig worked in digital forensics. The real kind. Ex-Cybercrimes Task Force. He did consulting now, mostly boring stuff. But I called him up, told him everything. I need to know who's behind this, I said. Dean was just part of it. He didn't ask why I didn't call the cops again. He just said, "Bring me your router and those camera feeds." So I did. 3 days later, he called me back. "You're right," he said. "There was someone else." He broke it down for me. The device Dean plugged into my router was a repeater. It didn't just let him connect remotely, it allowed someone else to connect too. Someone had been logging in using a virtual interface, bouncing off Dean's connection. Whoever it was, they were smart. But not smarter than Craig. He traced the second signal to a location not far from me. 3 blocks away. A small white house with a red door. The person was using a rotating IP mask, but Craig cracked it. I drove past the house slowly. And that's when I saw her. Coraline. Sitting on her porch, drinking a soda, acting like nothing was wrong. It hit me like a brick. She was the second person. Dean had lived in my attic, but she was the one who helped him set everything up. She was the one who coached him, guided him, maybe even gave him the idea. She'd played dumb, acted like she didn't know anything. And now she was taunting me, hiding in plain sight. I didn't call the cops this time either. I knew they need more than a location and a guess. I needed to catch her in the act. So I baited her. I reopened my HBO Max account. Used a new email. Made the username. You lose this time 87. Then I set my new Wi-Fi up with an open guest network, unsecured. Just for her. It looked like a mistake, but it wasn't. I let her think I was slipping again. I waited. 2 nights later, I got the ping. She logged into my fake account. Watched the show I left playing just for her, a documentary on hackers getting arrested. It was petty, but I needed her to take the bait. She did. Then Craig stepped in again. While she streamed, he traced her device and took a snapshot of her network activity, real names, real devices, real timestamps. That was enough. We brought all of it. Footage, digital logs, Craig's statement, to a private investigator Craig worked with. The guy used to be NYPD. He packaged everything, handed it off to the cops with a bow on top. 2 weeks later, they raided her house. Turns out, Coraline wasn't just messing with me. She'd been helping Dean do the same thing to at least 3 other neighbors. People who had no idea they were being watched, filmed, or hacked. She was using it for blackmail, for free stuff, even posted videos on the dark web under fake names. She got arrested for conspiracy, wire fraud, unauthorized surveillance, and stalking. Her boys got sent to live with family out of state. Her house is empty now. Quiet. As for Dean, he's facing new charges. The cops flipped on him hard once Coraline's stuff came out. He tried to blame her, but the phone footage, the gear in the attic, it was too much. He's going away for years. And me? I finally slept. But I didn't forget. I sold the house a few months later. Couldn't live there anymore. Too many ghosts in the walls. I moved into a condo across town, top floor, 1 entrance, steel door, no attic. I still have the photo she left on my fridge. You only caught one of us. I keep it in a drawer now. As a reminder. Because next time someone knocks on my door asking for a favor, I won't just say no. I'll shut the door, deadbolt it, and check the cameras twice. Let them know. You mess with the quiet guy, and he will burn you down quietly.